I remember the smell first. It wasn't just smoke. It was something heavier, like burning flesh mixed with damp earth and fear. You don't forget a smell like that. Even now, it finds me, years later, when I least expect it, during rainstorms, or when the air feels too still. Nsukka didn't just fall, it was erased, and I saw it happen. My mother glared at him. "Keep your voice down," she whispered, even though it was just us in the house. "Why should I?" He snapped. "Is it not the truth?" I didn't understand most of what they argued about, but I could feel the tension in the air, like the weight of a coming storm. The first explosion hit just before dawn. I was outside sweeping the yard, half asleep, with the broom scratching against the dirt. The sky was still gray, the air cool. I heard a deep boom in the distance. It rumbled like thunder, but there were no clouds in the sky. Then, the ground shook beneath my feet. I dropped the broom and froze. My mother came running out of the house, her wrapper tied hastily over her shoulders. "Chinyo, get inside," she shouted. "Mama, what was that?" "Get inside." I obeyed, but I couldn't stop shaking. My younger brother and sister were already awake, their wide eyes darting toward every sound. My father stood by the door, staring in the direction of the explosion. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. The explosions continued throughout the morning. Each one came closer than the last, the ground trembling more violently with every blast. The fear in town became something alive, spreading like wildfire. People started running, streaming through the streets with bundles on their heads and babies strapped to their backs. "They've crossed the line," my father said, pacing back and forth in the parlor. "The soldiers are here. Should we leave?" My mother asked, her voice tight. "Leave to where?" "We'll be safer here," he replied. "This is a university town. They won't destroy Nsukka." He was wrong. The soldiers came in the afternoon. I'll never forget the sound of them, shouting orders in Hausa and Pidgin, the thud of their boots on the ground, the terrifying staccato of gunfire that echoed through the streets. People screamed and scattered, running in every direction. The soldiers didn't care who they shot. My mother pulled me and my siblings toward the bush behind our house. "Stay low," she whispered. "Don't make a sound." Her hands shook as she pressed us into the undergrowth. My little brother started to cry, and she covered his mouth with her palm. "Where's Papa?" I asked. "He stayed behind," she said. "To help the neighbors." I wanted to scream at her, to tell her we had to go back for him. But the look on her face stopped me. From the bushes, I saw the soldiers enter our compound. They moved quickly, rifles slung across their backs. They kicked in the front door and tore through our things. My father appeared at the doorway, hands raised in surrender. "I am a teacher," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I am not part of this war." One of the soldiers laughed. "Biafra teacher." "I teach history," my father replied. "I have no weapons." The soldier didn't say anything else. He raised his rifle and pulled the trigger. The sound of the gunshot pierced through the air. My mother tightened her grip on me as I struggled, desperate to run to him. She whispered, "No, Chinyo. No." Her voice was a plea, and I had never heard her sound so broken. We stayed in the bush for hours, listening to the chaos around us. Gunfire, screams, and the crackling of flames filled the air. The smell of burning houses was thick, making it hard to breathe. When the noise finally stopped, we crept back toward what was left of our home. The yard was littered with broken furniture, charred books, and ash. My father's body lay near the doorway, his glasses still on his face, cracked and bloodied. My mother knelt beside him and wrapped his body in her scarf. She didn't cry. She didn't say a word. The next day, we joined the others fleeing south. The roads were packed with people. Some carried bundles, others pushed wheelbarrows or dragged children along by their hands. Everyone walked in silence, their faces blank with shock. I kept looking back, hoping for some sign that we could return. But Nsukka was gone, swallowed by the smoke rising into the sky. I was 12 years old when Nsukka fell. I didn't understand everything about the war, but I knew this: nothing would ever be the same again. Home was no longer a place. It was just a memory, one I would carry with me for the rest of my life.